Hey, so the coronavirus has been plaguing the world, and it's the word corona has been all over the place. So, as a person who really likes words because words are creative, they create everything, I've really been trying to research the etymology of corona. So, corona is Greek word that means crown. So this coronavirus is given this name from the 60s, meaning crown. So this crown is derived from the way that the virus looks like a crown. Like when you see it, it has these pointy things that look like a crown is around it, like a garland or a wreath. So this is the etymology of the word corona. So this comes from the constellations in the sky, in the stars, in space. There are actually two major constellations that are given the word corona, the name corona. So the northern constellation called Corona Borealis, and this is a constellation that was given this name by Ptolemy, and it has a counterpart in the southern part, which is Corona Australis. And all of these have this word corona, right? And this word is also applied in astrological terms to the sun. So the rays of the sun that look like spikes in a crown are called a corona. And this is also associated with when there's a total eclipse and the sun is covered by the moon. The ring around the dark sun, the black sun, is called the corona. When it is eclipsed, that that light around it, that ring of light is called the corona. And this is eclipsing, and we are eclipsed by it. This is what's happening right now. It is the eclipse. Okay. So this corona is leading us to a corona, and this is what's happening. Eclipses, blackness, darkness, death, corona, coroner. And a coroner is a person who works for the crown. The actual root of a coroner is an officer who is in charge of protecting the private property of the crown. And because the crown has property that is transferred through death, heredity through their heirs, the coroner was a person who determined the cause of death when it's unnatural and was responsible for making sure that the descendants would get the wealth. So the coroner is linked with wealth and the continuity of the crown's wealth and power and all of those things. The coroner. And it's been slightly altered to a medical officer who determines the cause of death. And this is a coroner. Okay. So this is corona, coroner. And this word also means coronation, and it comes as part of the coronation of the year. A coronation is when someone is given the authority and power, is invested in power. So when a person has a coronation, they're crowned with a corona. And the coronation is the beginning. This is the beginning of the year when the corona started. It coronated the year, which is very interesting as a parallel. And this is also the coronation, the coroner. And through this, we are in quarantine. So quarantine is from qua, which is quad 4, and teen. This is the same word we have for maritime quarantine. And quarantines actually started with the maritime ships. It started with ships ships that would travel to other lands, and then when they came with a certain sickness with the members on the crew, the ship was said to be in quarantine for 40 days. So the 40-day quarantine is where we get the word quarantine for time. So this is what is happening right now again. Okay. So this is also the word that is associated with this time, because all of these words are all being given to us and they create this reality. Okay. So this is the coronation, right? And the corona meeting leading us to a coroner, and this is a really, really, really crazy time. So a lot of people are confused and scared. You shouldn't be scared. You should be calm, because at the end of the day, you're able to beat this as long as you're aware of what's happening. People perish from a lack of knowledge. Okay. So getting further into the etymology, a lot of information is out there about a saint called Saint Corona, who was a female saint who was martyred in a Roman city, and she was also with another person called Saint Victor, who was also sainted. So Saint Corona is the saint of wealth, the saint of gambling, and the saint of money. Yeah, wealth, gambling, and money, and also the saint for pandemics. So she's not the only saint who represents pandemics, but there are other saints like Saint Anthony or Edmus, all of the different saints for that. So she's also invoked in terms of protecting people from a pandemic, which is very interesting. So that is Saint Corona with Saint Victor. And Saint Corona's feast day is the 14th of May. So it's very interesting that the Roman Catholic has a saint that is specifically linked to gambling, which is something that I find rather interesting and odd. Gambling. Okay. So that's Saint Corona. Apparently also a saint for pandemics. So this is coming from Italy, which is a place that was ravished by this sickness. Okay, so that is Saint Corona. So the etymology of corona is very, very interesting. So when you take the word coronavirus and put all of the letters in a hat, shake them up, and rearrange the letters, you get carnivorous, carnivore, which is a devourer of the flesh. Coronavirus, carnivorous, which is devouring the flesh. So this is corona. Okay, so corona means crown. Okay, and a crown is also for the name Crone, which is crone. So crown and crone, these are linked in terms of their meaning and the understanding. So the crone refers to an old woman who has wisdom. So this woman has wisdom that she uses either for good or for bad, depending on the nature and disposition of this particular woman. So in every story that we see, for example, in Cinderella, there are two crones. There's the evil stepmother, she's a crone, and then there's the fairy godmother, she's a crone. So a crone is an old woman with a certain type of wisdom, which either obstructs or aids a person, a crone, which is linked to crown, which is what a corona is. So this archetype of this old wise woman is used for good and for bad, but is really prevalent in a lot of different stories, a lot of different religions. For example, Lilith, who is known, right? Known and unknown, is a crone, and she is the keeper of women's mysteries. Another crone who is in the Hindu religion, is the goddess Kali, who is the goddess of death and destruction. And there are different, so many different crowns. And all of these are linked to the word crown. So the crone is this crown, this woman who is linked to the cycle of time. So these crones, in so many religions and cultures, the crones have a certain ritual that is called the croning ceremony. When this woman enters a new era. So the croning ceremony celebrates entering into a new era of wisdom, of wealth, and of freedom. This is croning. So entering into a different era, if this is to happen in terms of this understanding, it would take a certain ritual that would take place and that would happen, and that would affect certain individuals in the understanding of the participants of that ritual. So this would take cronies, people who are banded together, who are understanding what's happening, and the effects of this croning, in this case, are chronic. So chronic means something that is serious, chronic, crone, corona, crown. And this is linked to the whole idea of chronicling everything that's happening, chronicling the name Corona, because the media is very, very instrumental in how we are digesting the information and how we are applying it. Instead of them telling us how to boost our immune system, they're telling us not to leave the house. Instead of them giving us wellness in terms of understanding how to have a healthier life and a healthier wellness, wholesomeness. We're not being exposed to that type of information, but what's being chronicled is something that is forced into a different way of living that is changing the whole society. Because after this, or during this, or right now, the whole world is going to alter. And this is entering into a new era. Entering into a new era. This is what's happening. This is croning. Croning means crowning. So crowning is getting a crown on your head. This is called investment. And crowning also means birth. So this birth into a new era is called croning, is called crowning. So when a woman is giving birth, the head is crowned when a woman is crowning. So this crowning is a medical term that is used during birth when the vagina opens and then it crowns a person from the womb. And then when we are being crowned, it means that what is happening is taking us into another cycle. Okay, so the beginning is the end. We begin our lives when we end our 9 months. So the end is always the beginning, and that's the cycle, the crown, the crone. So this cycle of time, the cycle of life, is depicted as the old woman, which is called a crone. So many pieces of, so many stories have a crone. Okay, so this is the wise old woman. And then the juxtaposition, the opposite, the complement. We have the north and the south corona. So the north and the south corona, just like Saint Corona and Saint Victor, male and female. So the wise old man, okay, is also called Chronos. Chronos. And Chronos is the titan of time, according to the Greeks, who is transposed into Roman mythology as Saturn. Okay, Saturn. So this is the god of time. And Saturn has the rings of time. And the ring of time, this is what we're speaking of in terms of the croning ceremony, which is when the woman represents the cycle of time. So Chronos represents time. And Saturn is this god who is known for devouring his own children. So this is Saturn, the devourer of his own children, which means the cycle of life. Like we live and then we die, and then our children live and then their children die. And this is just the cycle of time that is being spoken of. But he's a devourer of his own children. And Kronos, the Greek one, same guy who is Saturn, carries a certain weapon, a sickle, because he's also the god of agriculture, harvest, wealth again. He's the god of time, wealth, freedom, rules, and things like that. So we're entering a different rule, a rulership. And this is already coming into force that the rules have already changed because everything is now different. But the god of time, Kronos, Saturn, carries a scythe or a sickle. Sickle, which has the word sick in it. He carries this sickle, which is actually the Grim Reaper. This is what he is, the harvest. He's the god of harvest. And Saturn is celebrated in December, was celebrated in December, is celebrated in December as with the festival where people exchange gifts. The same Christmas celebration is the Saturn celebration, which is where we give thanks for the harvest. And so Kronos is the opposite of crone. Crone is the wise old woman. Kronos is the wise old man. So the man with the white beard every Christmas is Saturn, Satan. Yeah, and that is the understanding of the wise old man who's in charge of time and and he is the reaper. So that is what that is. The Saturn understanding, which is a a cronyism, and he is the chronicle, always looking at the things in terms of time, chronology. Okay, so everything happening is happening in terms of chronology. So when you research into this particular pandemic, what is interesting about it is the whole issue of Event 201, which had the same chronicle of what's happening right now with a group of different cronies talking about a corona. And this is happening in a chronology, and it's also following the previous chronology of 100 years where there was a Spanish flu, okay, and that devastated the world, and then in 100 years again this happens. So that's a very interesting chronology. There've been so many plagues, right, in the past, and to say that this one is man-made and created by people for such and such a reason is it's very tricky because there've been so many such things happening before. So this one could be a natural occurrence of something. However, when you look at the material that is out there that chronicles the chronology of this and how everything is going to be synchronized, it is very compelling to look at that, and it provokes you to think in such a way that this could have been something that is chronicled, orchestrated by cronies to be the crone, so that we can have a croning, so that we can enter into a new era. And this is where the etymology leads us. So etymology, eat, et, mal, like malfunction, logy, study. Etymology, the etymology of etymology, there's a video on that. It means the study of things that are hard to swallow. Etymology. So studying this is studying the atom and the logic of the whole universe. So through this, we're able to understand so many things because my people perish from a lack of knowledge. So when I'm talking to my people, and to give knowledge, because iron sharpens iron, as one man's face sharpens another man's face. So this is very, very important because it's a matter of life and death. So in all this, I just hope that you're able to understand the different aspects of this world, this word, and you're able to also understand that this is the reality of it. And what you just have to do is to make sure that you're staying safe and healthy. Exercise as much as you can. In fact, exercise until you break a sweat. Whenever you sweat, certain impurities leave your body because what we're fighting against is a flu, So what you just need to have is the ability to sweat it out, and this helps you a lot. Of course, eat healthy, have roots. So one thing about a crone is that a crone gives you knowledge and wisdom. The crone is the depiction of wisdom, which can be used for good and for bad. And the crone is a woman who you go to, and they are able to tell you certain roots, certain soups, certain food that you can eat in order to feel whole again and wholesome. So many crones have been there, good, and so many of them are bad. Like so many in African cultures, African movies, they have a crone, a woman who bewitches a person, and this is real. And there's also another crone who's able to give you strength and power, which is love, right? So these crones have these methods, these remedies. So this would be like the woman in the neighborhood, in the area where you go to, who has some indigenous, native, original information. Like, hey, you have a cough. No, take this. You'll feel better. Oh, this has happened. Oh, rub some salt on him. Rub it in his palms. They have that type of understanding. This is crone. So this is what's needed right now to have the crone in your crown. And then the crown chakra is also the corona chakra. So this is in your mind, this is in your head, this is your pineal gland, the pineal crown, corona chakra. So crown is corona. So this has to be open so that you can see. And this is the only thing that is happening right now, that so many people are afraid. And this is affecting how you see the world and how you interpret what's happening. Nothing is good or bad. It is only what you think about it and how you react to it that determines whether or not it's good or bad. So this is part of the crown. So keep that in mind. Yeah. So this is the etymology of coronavirus, the carnivorous. So yeah. So just keep your wits about you. Wit is wet, So keep humidity, keep humor, wit, wet, humor, humid, human. So wet is wit. So stay humorous, stay laughing. Laughter is the best medicine after all. So yeah, so this is the etymology of corona, and yeah, I'm sure there's more stuff on it, but this is what I was able to dig up through reflecting on it for quite a while, and also just looking through this infinite world of information that we have at our fingertips. All right, so till next time.